I am so excited. This is the last episode for the year at the time of this recording because the replay will continue to play for years and years and years. And we've been filming and recording the How I Met My Husband series, and we're on episode 10, which is also the closing episode for this year and this particular season. And I'm especially grateful to have Mrs. Adeola join us because it's going to be a ride. We're going to enjoy it. We're going to enjoy it. And she's here already. So I'll just add her to the conversation so we can get right into it. I'm SAGENEL, and I help women meet and marry their husbands in the 21st century. Let's get this conversation started. Okay, Okay, I think I accepted her. So do well to like, share, subscribe as you're watching this. I know you're watching this on YouTube, every other platform, because we're going to enjoy it. So, good morning, Mrs. Adeola.
Good morning.
Always
How are you?
I'm fine.
How are you
I
doing
like
today?
your hair,
Thank
everything.
you. Thank
I'm
you.
doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for choosing to join us today. I don't take it at all.
I didn't have a choice. Oh, no, I take that back. My choice was to join you.
Thank you. So happy. Thank you. So just a bit about Mrs. Adeola Kingsley-James. She's a family life practitioner, and there is more that she does, and you can find that out on her page. But we'll just be speaking on the profile regarding marriage, because that's the conversation we're having today. She has been married for 8 years. Welcome, everybody. She got married at the age of 34. She met her husband in Lagos, Nigeria. Her occupation, she's a life giver and a kingmaker. She's from Yoruba tribe, Nigerian. He's from Delta, Nigerian, and they are both Christians. So the essence of the purpose of this episode is to find out how she met her husband, what her waiting season was like, if she had that, and everything in between, the difference, what she may have done differently, dating, and all of those lessons, even sharing to us as a practitioners as well as I go through the questions. Okay, so Ms. Adeola, I'll start with my favorite question, which is the best, which is, how did you meet your husband? Like, we want to know the whole story. You decide the first question, we don't want to rush it. So we just allow it to be the first question.
Okay. So how did I meet my husband? I met my husband about maybe 15 or so years ago.
Okay.
I met him through a bunch of friends of mine. Well, through a friend of mine. We're actually on a movie set. And he was a friend to the producer on the movie set. They were there were 4 guys. And I'm a boys' girl, so I used to hang out with boys a lot. I didn't really have girlfriends, so all my friends were boys. And so this set of 4 boys became my friends, and then of course it became a little bit more because then I met some of their other friends, and then I used to hang out with all the boys. There are times when you come into a club or a bar and I'm the only girl there sitting out with the boys. They stop even seeing me as a boy, as a girl. So my husband, I used to call one of my boys. Actually, if anybody had said that we would have gotten married, I would have said, fat lie, it's impossible, I can't marry my brother.
Wow.
So that's how it was. And fast forward to maybe a couple of years, several years after, he had an unfortunate situation where he lost his wife. And he was just one of those kind of people that, I saved his name and added me to it, which is Mike Kingsley, right from when I met him 15 years ago, even as my friend, because he really had a very big heart and he was such a cool dude, So I life of the party, he wanted everybody to be comfortable. He was just that kind of person. So I had that French friendliness in mind for him. Nothing romantic in any way crossed my mind. So years after, like I said, his wife passed, and then several years after, again, maybe about 4 or 5 years after, we'll keep in touch now and then. But this particular time I haven't spoken to him in a while, and I reached out to him, and I had a show I was doing at the time. So it was a live show. So I asked him to come for the live show, and he came. And we had such a great time. It wasn't just myself and himself, it was a bunch of friends once again. And so I said to him, I said, look, I have a boyfriend, but he lives in America. I want to go out a couple of times, but I sometimes, you know, don't have a partner. Do you want to be my partner? And once in a while, when I'm going out, if you're free, we hang out and vice versa. So that was the kind of arrangement we both had. I wasn't looking for any relationship. He also said he wasn't looking for a relationship. So eventually I said to him, I said, if you spend time with me, though, you will like me. So I just want to put you on guard. And he did, what did you call that thing?
Yes.
So I said, okay. If you think you can handle it, you know, then, you know, because I mean, I knew myself and I knew that, you know, I think I was a bit self-aware and maybe I'd gotten into a little bit of trouble with different people and, you know, and the kind of friendships and all the kind of expectations they eventually had when they spent time with me. So that's why I put him on guard. And so when he did his mouth up, I said, okay, great, since you can handle it, we're good, you know. And so we started to hang out, go out together and all of that. And a couple of weeks down the line, one of the days I was going home, he was sulking, and I asked him why he was sulking. And he said he didn't want me to go. I said, aha, I told you. I told you. You know. And I think he kind of just, you know, like I said, I'm sure some people are wondering, so what happened to my boyfriend? Well, I went to America. My boyfriend lived in America. I didn't think that he was ready also for the plunge. He was just getting his feet, finding his feet. So we had an adult conversation around it. And I said, look, I met somebody, possibly he may lead somewhere. I don't know where he's leading, but I didn't want to mislead him also by not telling him what was going on. And so, you know, I asked him if he was ready to let go of the relationship, and he said he wasn't. So I said, okay, when you're ready, you know. And so I came back to Nigeria, and we kind of, you know, hit it off. And yeah, and that's, you know, and then of course I met his kids and, you know, family members. I spoke to his dad. I liked him. I spoke to his sister. I liked her. And, you know, it went from there. And eventually I introduced him to my dad, who initially had a challenge that I was dating somebody who had children. He asked me why I wanted to start my life like that. And I said, well, meet him first. If you like him, great. If you don't like him, let's have a conversation. But I knew my dad would like him because my dad and himself were very alike. Like I just needed to put both of them in separate rooms and ask them the same question, and they'll give me the same answers. That's how alike they were, you know. So wow. He met my dad. Oh yes, it was ridiculous. Even my mom had to say, "Why did you go and marry your father?" But I mean, we all know that that's what we gravitate towards, you know, because that's the first thing we know as love, right? And so he met my dad, and my dad, you know, when he was leaving, my dad said, "When am I seeing you again?" And therein lied the friendship, you know.
Can you imagine? Wow.
And so I pretended to think he was Van Damme. So I said to him, he said, what question did I ask him? I said, oh, you asked it when you see him again. He said, therein lies your answer. I would like to see him again. And I think at a point, my father loved him more than he loved me. I have to tell you, I have to slip that in. Oh, yes, I was a bit jealous of their friendship. But yeah, and wow. That's how, you know, he met my mom and all of that. And I mean, anybody likes him, so I wasn't so.
I'm not sure. Can you hear me? I don't know what it is. Please, if you're on the live and you can hear me, let me know. I want to know if it is my network, but I cannot hear Mrs. Adeola again. So I would like to know if you can hear me, if you're on the live, if you can please hear me. You can just let me know in the comments so I know whether it's my network or her network. Okay, thank you so much. Fabulously, Doni. I'm grateful. All right, so she will join us again. She's going to join us again. That must be a network. Let me try to add that to the conversation. I think it's a network. So, okay, you can. All right. It's her network. She'll be back. I just sent her. Okay, but can't hear her. Yes, I stopped hearing her at a point too. I just wanted to be sure that it wasn't from my side. But she has left. I think she'll just come back again. I sent her an invite. Thank you so much for staying here. And please note that you can ask your questions along the line using the question icon. It's important that you use the question icon, not the comment, so that your question can be seen and prioritized. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Send the comment. I'm trying to add Mrs. Adeola back to the conversation, so we may just need to give her a minute because of our network. Such an interesting conversation already. So glad that we're having it. Let me cancel. I'm not sure, but let me see if Mr. Adeola is chatting me up. I'm trying to, Mr. Adeola, I'm trying to add you back. I don't know why. If you are seeing the request, or maybe you could send a request from your side. I'm trying to send a request, or I've sent request, but it doesn't seem to be going through. Let me try again. So, except going to leave the live and come back again, which she has already done. Sometimes, though, Instagram can happen to situations. It just happens that way. Okay, I think I should just leave Mrs. Adeola to send the request. Maybe it will be better, because the request I'm sending, I'm not getting a response. It is possible that she's not seeing it. Let me ask a question, 1 moment. Thank you for your patience. We're doing our best to make this work. Very best to make this work. Okay. So I'll be adding Adeola again. Okay, let me try to call her. I'm not sure. Thank you for staying with us. We're going to have Miss Adeola join us immediately. We're going to have us. She's going to join us now. We just spoke. If you're watching this on YouTube, please do well to subscribe, share. Also share your comments as well. And you could also share with us how you met your own husband. That would be great. Okay, Miss Adeola is back. Okay, oh, fantastic. Wow. Thank you so much for coming back. I know, maybe network hiccups and all that, but we're glad to have you back.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So you were talking about, I think you were pretty much just talking about your husband and your dad before you went off. I don't know if you want to close that out or any other thing you want to add to that before we move to the next.
Aside the fact that I just ended it by saying I think at some point I felt my father loved my husband more than he loved me, and so there was no hiccup again after that, everything was good to go. Yeah.
Okay, so to the next question, you got married to a single father, and it's something that, especially in the African setting, is still a bit, people are still trying to understand it. A lot of times what people don't understand, they criticize, condemn, or even run away from. For you personally now, because I have questions like in different categories, for you personally, how did you see it? Stepping into, of course, ending things, or well, finishing and ending things with your boyfriend then, and choosing to say, you know what, I would go together with a single father. So I even want to get things from your own perspective at that point.
Okay. So because I'm an honest person, I will tell you a couple of things, okay? With the knowledge I now have, I think I came from two places. One, desperation. Two, savior. Okay? I had become a carer, and if people understand that there are different roles that we play. But one of it is the carer role, right, as children, because you get attention and affection by dropping yourself and carrying on other people. That's what carer is, okay? And so, which can also be called the empath for some people. I call it the savior mentality, okay? Savior role. So I think somewhere at the back of my mind, my savior role must have kicked in because I like to fix projects. I was a fixer. So the carer is a project person. They take on people to fix them, right? So that's who I used to be. And so at the time, I didn't know that that's who I used to be. I felt like, when you love somebody, you come for them, you help them out of it. I remember one of the conversations that we had one day, and he said to me that he didn't think any young girl, single girl, would want to be with him. And I asked why. And he said he's got baggage. He's got 2 kids. Not many young girls will be interested in such a person like him. And I said, come off it. That's absolute bollocks. You're a really great guy, And so I even promised him that I will help him find a wife, right? That I believe that there are great people out there. Because for me, like I said, I saw him as my boy, one of my boys, so I didn't see myself as that. But I promised him, I said, don't worry, I'll hook you up. And so every time you see me, you say, where's my wife? Until one day he said, if you don't give me my wife, it's you I will marry. And I thought he was joking, and we laughed over it. But I think at some point, at that point, my savior role kicked in, my fixing role kicked in, my carer role kicked in. And don't forget, I was 34. Everybody's prayer point for me was, you will marry and you will have children, you will have twins. That's everybody. Nobody was saying, oh, you have money, you do none of those things. They didn't pray for success for me than marriage. Yes. And I was 34, and in Nigeria, it's old, okay? So there was a bit of desperation there as well. Now, did I really care about the person I was getting married to? Of course. But I thought that love for him was going to be enough to then translate that to love for the children and love for his situation in general. And so I came in from I like to use the word damage. I came in from an already damaged place. Okay. And it's not to say it's really bad. And when I use the word, I use it lightly. I don't use it as, oh, condemned goods, right? Because nothing is condemned. But from a place of, there was a huge dent in my self-esteem, and my picking up projects to fix them fill that space. And so I think with the knowledge I have now, that's who he was for me. He was that project that I needed to fix, so that I could get I could get the thank yous, and I could get the air that I needed to breathe.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma, for actually just being, like you said, honest and just sharing this with us. How did you, because even discovering this in itself is an achievement, how did you get back in retrospect to say, this is what I discovered, and how have you been able to walk through that? Yes, thank you so much. Let me pin this comment. We really appreciate you just sharing, like, in all honesty. But how did you now realize that, this is where it came from, and maybe were there things you now needed to work on, if there was anything that challenged in between?
See, the amount of therapy I've done, the amount of therapy I've done. Look, I can tell you who I am to the T, because I've done a lot of therapy on myself. I've done a lot of work on myself. And that's why I say to people, therapy found me. Being a therapist found me. I didn't look for it. Okay. I knew that at some point, it got to a point where I knew that if I didn't seek help, I was going to just either start to think about committing suicide, or stay in the terrible depression that I found myself in, even if I was not clinically diagnosed, because I know that people loosely use that word. But I know what it feels like, right? I know the symptoms, and I had all of it, okay? So I think it was one of the days where my daughter came into my room. She was 2 then. And our children think that they are our saviors. And I hope parents are listening to us. And if they see that they cannot help you, it's called learned helplessness. They feel like a failure because now they cannot help you. Okay? And so my 2-year-old at the time, she knew, because children sense it. They know something is wrong. Okay, whether you like it or not, they catch more from nonverbal communication than from verbal communication in itself. And I remember one day I was in my room by myself, because I wanted to just stay by myself all the time. I couldn't give of anything, right? And so my daughter came into my room and looked at me and said, "Mommy, are you happy or are you sad?" And I said, "I'm happy." And she said, "Mommy, if you're happy, why are you crying?" And I said, I'm crying because I'm happy to see you." Of course, that was a lie. But I think at that point, I'd promised myself that this is the last time that this child is going to see me like this, right? For me, I was already on rock bottom. I couldn't go any lower, There was no lower for me. I was already there, And so I said to myself, okay, I need to seek help. And so I did. And I went to the first person I saw was completely wrong for me. But I'm happy that I saw him, because I now knew what right was, And so for me, it was so good that I did see him. But because I was so vulnerable at the time, I couldn't see past everything that he said. And I started to soak him up to the point where I started to behave like him. And he was a very judgmental person. He was a very, he was so critical of everybody. And so I became like that. And I knew that this is not who I am. I'm not a critical person. And if anything, I'm one of those kind of people that I'm up for anything, So I started, you say something, I'll say, no, that one is this. So I knew that, it seemed like I was going the wrong way. And graciously, I have a very good relationship with God. I'm very spiritual, not religious, but very spiritual. And so I started to just say, you know what, God, you need to call, I'm tired of doing it on my own. I need you now, And one of the days I was sitting down, and I was lying down on my bed actually, and a video popped up on my screen. and it was Lisa Nichols, and she was talking about something, but what she was talking about just ministered to my heart. And so I reached out to her. Fortunately, she was doing a conference at the time, and so I paid to join the conference, and I joined her conference. And I remember asking her a question about self-sabotaging, and she called me up and she said, Adeola, if I asked you to do anything, would you do it? I said, I would do it and then some. And she said, if you walk with me, in 1 year, you'll be using binoculars to look at yourself and see how far you have grown. And so for me, from that point, my growth became absolutely non-negotiable. So I'm a warrior, you know, like I burnt all the bridges. There was no going back, you know. So it's either I win or I die trying. That's the point that I'd gotten to. And so for me, there was no going back. I threw myself completely, and I forgot about everybody else, because if you don't have two legs, you cannot carry anybody. And so it wasn't about, oh, I have children, I have a husband, screw everybody. I don't everybody. And I said, now I need to zone into myself to heal myself, because I knew at that point that if I was okay, then everything around me was going to be okay. And then, of course, the fear of what if I get into this space and my husband said he didn't want to be with me anymore. I said, screw it. If he doesn't want to be with me, then he's not meant to be part of my journey. Anybody that falls off the bandwagon is not meant to be part of my journey. And then I gained freedom from there. So I kept on going. But Lisa Nichols is not a therapist. She's a coach. But I knew that, you know, this could answer some of my questions, but it couldn't answer all of my questions. Okay. So I kept on searching. And so there's a lady that works with Lisa Nichols, Danita Saju. So I just reached out to her one of the days on my own, and I said, look, I'd like to be in your circle. There's something about you that ministers to me that I like. And she sent a message back to me, and, you know, we got on a call, and she said, I don't have a group, but this is what I do. And she said, I'm a rapid transformational therapist. I said, tell me about it. And she said, this is what I do. This is how I do it. You know, there's a bit of hypnotherapy in it. I was like, woo, woo, woo. I don't do hypnotherapy, baby. It's, you know, it's too much for me. It's magic, you know. And she started laughing. She said, I can understand how you feel. I'll send you a video, watch it, and come back to me and tell me how you feel. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And she did. And so I asked myself, I said, look, I'm already on the ground. How much lower can I go? What's the worst that will happen if she does this thing for me? It will not work. What's the best that would happen? It will work, and I'll get out of this funk that I'm in. And so I decided to take the plunge. And that was the best decision of my entire life, to have done that these sessions with her. Because, you know, and you know, when people hear hypnotherapy, they think, oh, you control me and collect all my money. It's a huge lie. It's one of the most natural states that you can ever be in. At least that's what happened to me. And in 3 weeks with her, I knew that something had shifted. My life went from, if I had gotten to 30, my life went from 30 to 90 just in 3 weeks with her. And so I said to myself, Adeola, you're going to go and do this course. When I went to check how much it costed, I was like, oh my goodness, it's plenty. So I ran away. I said, I'll be right back. Let me go and come back. It was tens of thousands of dollars. I said, let me go and come back, you know. But fortunately, I made a decision I was going to do it, and I did it eventually. And I became a certified rapid transformational therapist and hypnotherapist. And it changed my life completely. And it's not even a joke, right? And so that's why I can tell you who I am, and I can go back and look at it, because I now know why I show up the way I show up, or why I showed up the way I showed up. Because one of the things that happened was I didn't feel loved as a child. I was a middle child. And so I didn't feel like I was the first, neither was I the last or the only boy. So I displaced myself. Nobody displaced me. But in hypnotherapy, I remember one of the scenes that I saw to try and understand why I didn't feel loved. And I remember myself in my mother's womb, and my mother saying she wanted me to be a boy. So I actually came into the world already feeling unloved, and I didn't know it. Now, no talk therapy can get you there. No talk therapy, never, because you don't even know, right? You don't even know how it started, where it started, what started. You can't express it. But I'm able to live the life that I live right now because I've touched and unearthed and empowered that baby, that unborn child. I've empowered all the other different people that things have happened to in my life to be able to sit back and say, okay, this is why I attracted this person to my life. Now, do I have any regrets? Heck no. If I didn't marry the man that I married, I would not be who I am today. Okay? So I had to marry him to become the person that I am today. So I'm so grateful.
Exactly. Like, first of all, let me just take it in. Really true. And I'm so grateful. Thank you for sharing this with us. Like, it's something we even need to rewatch because we can't just even take it all in. And you've given perspective in the sense that sometimes when people find themselves in the situation, it may not be your exact situation, but whatever situation, they don't see it from that perspective of, okay, well, how can I get better? Instead, people are looking for, okay, how can I get out of this marriage, or this is the cause of my problem. Whereas when you dug deeper, you saw it had to do with you. What do you have to say to that, especially in this day and age where you have people spending 9 months, 19 months and saying, you know what, I'm going out, rather than sitting down to do the work? And I'm not saying there are no people with abuse and all that, but the fact of the matter is, it's not always abuse. Most times it's something that someone needs to work on, but they're refusing to. Since you have been there, what do you have to say to young couples in that situation right now?
Like you said, everybody's situation is different, okay? I also was going to opt out. So I'm not coming here to pretend that, oh, everything will. In fact, at some point, I gave my husband 30 days. I said, I need you to think about this marriage for 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, I'm going to do the same. Let's decide whether we want to carry on this relationship or not. At some point, I checked out completely. So I'm not going to be pretending here that, oh, it was all rosy. But let me tell you one thing that I realized. Every challenge that you have starts with you. When I speak to my clients and they say, oh, but why is it me you want to work with? He's the one that is the problem. I smile. I say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. Okay? So everything comes from you, because nothing means anything except the meaning you give to it. And if one thing happens to 10 different people, 10 people, those 10 people will react to it differently. So that then means that it is not the person, it is your interpretation of what they have done. And most times your interpretation is from your nature and nurture, period. Period. So what you want to do is not look at the other, because don't forget, when you're pointing one finger, the remaining 3 is coming back to you. So if you understand it like that, then you then know that for me, I needed to, you know, when you go through challenges in life, if you don't pass them in flying colors, you will meet it everywhere. Until you pass that challenge, you meet it everywhere. And for me, I wanted to, even if I was going to come out of this marriage, I'm still the same constant person in every relationship. So I will still be carrying the same me from this relationship to the next one. The same damaged me from this one. We enter another damaged one and go. At the end of the day, I will also have challenges with this person. So when I had challenges, I will stand up again and move to the next. Who needs to change? It's me. So everything that had to be done for me came from within. I had to go deep within to say, okay, why do I interpret when he does this? Why do I interpret it this way? Why do I get triggered when he says X, Y, Z? Why do I behave a particular way when he does X, Y, Z? For me, that was me having to go back down to say, okay, when he speaks like this, what I hear is my father. And my father spent most of my childhood life trying to break me and bully me. So I was not going to listen to anybody who was going to do that to me. So every time I heard my father in him, he lost me completely. Now I had to go back and ask myself why he lost me, why I got triggered, why it hurt me so much. It had nothing to do with him, because it was still me putting an interpretation to the things that he was saying and do. I remember one day I said to him, I said, when people use this sentence, a woman is meant to submit, what I hear is servant. So you say submit, I hear servant. I said, and I've not worked so damn hard to be anybody's servant. I said, so if you don't want to lose me, don't use that sentence for me again. But I needed to know that that sentence triggered me for me to be able to teach him. Now, even with abuse, my darling, there's so many things that we attract that we do not know. The thoughts that we think create the realities that we live in. My thoughts at the time, in fact, I used to call myself chief complainer. All you needed to do was ask me, Adeola, how are you? That's the end. I enter freeway, just telling you how my husband is useless, how my stepchildren are this, my in-laws are this, my outlaws. Everybody was the problem aside me. And guys, if you're listening to me, any therapist or coach you go and meet that tells you that you're the best thing after sliced bread and everybody else is useless, run away from that person, because that person is not helping you. Run far from that person. Far. Don't even, Tom and Jerry, the way they used to disappear. That's how you must run, because that person is going to wreck you completely. You need to always go deep within and ask yourself, why? Why do I feel unloved when he does X, Y, Z? They've come up with this whole love language thing, and I respect it. But my question is, so if he never gifts me, does that mean that he doesn't love me? No, because I can gift myself. If he doesn't touch me, does that mean he doesn't love me? No, because I can touch myself. And then people will say, so are you promoting masturbation? Yes. Because if you don't touch yourself and know yourself, how can you teach someone else? There's so many things that we have wrapped around, that we need to sit down and start to unearth. If he never tells me that I am great, can I not tell myself that I am great? Do I need to wait for him to tell myself that? And that's where the challenge is. We're waiting for other people to give us the things that we need when you can give yourself those things. So that's my advice for people today. You need to look inwards. It's not the other person. The other person may have their challenges. I'm not saying that they don't. But 95% of the time, if you change, everything around you will change. And that's what happened to me.
Yes, and this is such an interesting conversation, because this was not even the rhythm I thought it would go in, it will flow in, but I'm just so excited that it's flowing naturally. Okay, so could you please speak to us about your 30s, well, at least your 30s, from 30 to 34, and personally how you navigated those periods? Well, with what people were saying, and even aside from that, did you think, okay, what is going on? I want to get married. Were you setting goals? How did you navigate those 4 years before you now got married at 34?
To be honest, I don't even know. I didn't know anything about setting goals. I definitely was nothing like I am now. I'm a creative person. I play in the television space. And so that's probably all I did. I mean, I had maybe 1 or 2 friendships here and there. I was very guarded with my heart. That's the truth. I'd been hurt a couple of times, and I'd promised myself that I'll never open myself up to love. And so I plunged into a dark space, and I just kind of used people, and that's the truth. I'm not sure that I could give of myself to anybody at that time. In fact, I think I'd said to myself that if I wasn't married soon, I would just have a child. I would look for somebody that I don't mind having a life with or a connection with, and have a child with the person. And to get me ready for that, I got a dog. I got a puppy at the time. I said, at least this puppy will prepare me. I will know whether I can actually look after a child. And so I got my dog, and my dog is still with me 10 years after. and he's my first child, as I call him, Snowy Baba. That's the name. Okay, so when I got him, I then said, okay, I'm now ready to have a child, and then the following year, my now husband kind of surfaced, and we started a friendship, and then it led to eventual marriage. So did I do goals? None of those things. How did I handle pressure of people asking me to get married? I mean, I created something. So anybody that said, oh, your mates are married, if they're older, I will say to them, your mates are dead. So why aren't you dead? Oh, yes. So I mean, when people will say, I mean, people just open their mouths and say all kinds of nonsense, forgetting that, I know it was because, I mean, why would you just say those kind of things? I'm sorry. Well, actually, I'm not sorry, but I mean, for me, it was me just hitting them back just the same way, because not everybody is going to be married, Sage. In fact, not everybody should marry. When I had my child, I had no business having a child. I wasn't ready for her to having a child. I wasn't even prepared for myself. And that's a huge mistake people are making right now. They're having children when even they don't know themselves. So you bring a child to the world to only damage that child because you're damaged. So for me, that pressure is so unnecessary. And I think it's malicious. I think it's wicked. We put so much pressure on people. I know somebody that was married for 4 days, and came out and said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Her eyes suddenly opened. So for me, that was my comeback. When you say, your mates are married, my comeback was your mates are dead for the older people, and they'll be shocked. For the younger people, I may say, oh, you're uglier than you looked the last time that I met you. I mean, I just always had a ready comeback for them. So people stayed away, they just kind of stayed away from me. And my parents didn't put any pressure on me, to be honest. So, I mean, if maybe I got some pressure from them, it would have been different. But my parents didn't put me under any pressure. It was just generally from people outside. So I don't think I had any plan, my darling. I didn't know. I didn't even know who I was to have a plan. I just knew that maybe I'll have a child at some point and keep it moving.
Okay. So how did you know your husband? How did you know he was the one? Did you have any sort of conviction, or when he finally asked, like you have narrated to us, how did you get to know that it was the one? I mean, there are different ways different people get to know that, okay, this is the one. And well, we'll move to fears and all that. So let me not ask that ahead of the question.
Okay. How did I know he was the one? Once again, because I'm a spiritual person. I had a vision. Okay. And it told me the vision was quite clear, and and it maybe more than one. And exactly how I had that vision, it happened to the exact T. So I just thought to myself, okay, so this has to be God telling me something that, he's got a hand in this. Even though now I'm a bit, I think differently, because, what you focus on keeps coming back to you. It's attraction. So sometimes you think you are seeing a vision, but you're just seeing your thoughts repeating itself all over again. So maybe really the answer is no, but you have created it to be yes.
Wow.
But it's tough, but it's the truth. What you focus on increases, and the law of attraction is whatsoever is likened unto itself is drawn. That's what it is. And so you keep attracting the same thing, right? But there's also the law of vibration, and that's where your energy is all the time, which is, I think, the primary law. Law of attraction is a secondary law. So with that in mind now, I kind of feel like I was seeing my heart or my thoughts in dreams and in visions. So can I tell you now that I knew he was the one? I can say yes, based on what I saw. but maybe I also wasn't seeing right. But maybe I was, and this is not to knock off people who say, oh, God spoke to me, because I believe that God speaks to people. And the fact that God has spoken to you does not mean that there will not be topsy-turvy times. Even roses have thorns, right? So God, yes, has said yes to it, but you're still going to have to do some work to make sure that, there's still a participation that comes from you. And that's why God says, ask, even if he can read your thoughts. So yeah, from with the knowledge that I had then, I felt he was the one because of what I saw and how they happened, to the T. That's the answer to that question.
Okay. You said something very important before I move to my next question about you in retrospect now, of course, you're a different person now from what you now know and who you have become. But how you did not believe or even think, or you were not ready for a child at the particular time when you had your first child. I would like you to please speak to that, because I do think that a lot of single ladies find themselves in that flow that they put themselves in. They think, okay, well, so once I just get married, yes, it's great to get married, but so I just have to just now get children immediately. And they're doing it out of fear because they've told them, oh, you're 35, you're 30 or whatnot. What would you have to say with balancing the fear versus a lady even in her 35th year, knowing that she's not ready? What would you say to that person on how to balance that, so she and the spouse don't go ahead to now bring a damaged child because of the fear of, oh, I want to have children quickly and whatnot?
To be honest, it'll be different also once again for different people. For me, we had actually agreed that we're going to wait 1 year before we had our child. And I agreed to it because somewhere at the back of my mind, I felt like it might take a while for me to get pregnant, and don't ask me why. So I was excited when he said 1 year. I was like, yeah, at least we'll keep trying, and then eventually I'll get pregnant. But I got pregnant. We got married in December, and by the end of January, I think I was pregnant. So it took me a month. Yeah. And so I think he also felt a bit betrayed because that was not our agreement, and that's also another challenge that we have. We agree to things that we have no clue or control over, I know that, people talk about deal breakers, but with the knowledge I have now, deal breakers really doesn't give room for change, because we do change. Yeah. There's so many things that I didn't know then that I agreed to, just because it was, let's just get it all over with. I mean, there's certain things I didn't agree with or agree to, but some things I just said yes, thinking I would change him. And that's another challenge that we have as well. You cannot change anybody, okay? Unless they want to change, there's nothing you can do about it. And sometimes they want to change, but they don't want you to help them. And you must be okay with it, okay? And a lot of people struggle with that. Why can't I help you? He doesn't want you to help him. Leave him alone. If the idea is for him to change, then let someone else connect with him that will change him. It doesn't have to be from you. Okay, and that was one of the challenges I also had to when I first of all got married. And so you might want to have children, but my advice will be this: find yourself first before you bring in children into the world. We all have trauma and challenges that we're faced as children. Just by having the families that we have come from in Nigeria, you need help. I can tell you that for free. Your self-esteem has been affected one way or the other. Your confidence has been affected one way or the other. Your choices have been affected one way or the other. Religion, culture, hand in hand, has damaged so many things. So, and our parents, a lot of our parents didn't know better. And so I'm not beating them down, but they didn't know better, so they couldn't do better. So for me, I would say that before you start to bring children into the world, I think you and your husband need to go for therapy. Go and get yourselves in a better space where you can now bring, because you are wholesome, you can bring wholesome people into the world. There's this statement: hurt people hurt people. But before a hurt person can hurt somebody, that person is hurting. So hurt people hurt. And just like love people, right?
Mm.
And so love people love. So you want to get yourself in that space of love and understanding. You want to get coaches that can help you with parenting, teach you how to create family visions and values and a mission statement, and how this nation that you're about to create, because it is, will look like. Not like your father's own or your mother's own. Because we come into marriages with that on the thinking that, oh, for me, well, one of the things that I brought from my father's house or my mother's house was that, oh, we must do timetable for food. My husband didn't understand it because they didn't, but my mom, just couldn't start to think of what other people will eat, because even me, I can drink tea and go to bed. But don't forget, I already have a family. I already have 2 children in the mix. And these two children and their father already had a rhythm going on. And so I now come and scatter that rhythm without asking people, what do you want? How do you want to be loved? What does love mean to you? You know, there's so many things that we don't ask. You know, we don't even ask ourselves. People say, I just want somebody who will, what does that mean? What does that mean to you? Paint a picture. People hardly can, because they don't even know. If love was slapping you in the face, you won't even know, because you don't know what love means to you. So at that point of your marriage, please don't start with children immediately. Of course, if it happens, then, but if you can avoid it for 35 is not old, so don't worry. You have your children. Nothing will be wrong with your children. Right? Before you get into marriage, you say you help people find their husbands or find their spouses. They must seek help. And it's, I love talk therapies, but they don't go as deep. I promise you. They don't go as deep to help you unearth why you're showing up anxious, why you're always afraid, why you are depressed, why you have relationship challenges, even for some of your immune system. There's so many things that goes back to it being emotional. And most of our diseases start emotionally, whether we know it or like it or not. And I'm even trying to be nice, maybe 75% or 80% of our physical ailments started emotionally. Because I know of somebody who said to me one day, Adeola, sometimes I wake up and I wish that I'm dead. And I wish for sickness to come, so maybe it will happen naturally and quickly, so that it won't be that I poisoned myself. So guess what? Tomorrow she'll have cancer. And then people will say she died of cancer. But what happened? She called it upon herself. And your thoughts and your words are creative. Whether you like it or not, we're all creators. What are you creating is the question. So I that used to complain all the time, I kept on creating complaints. I needed to have more things to complain about. And they showed up in my existence, because that which is likened unto itself is drawn, whether you like it or not. So where are you focused on? What are you focused on? I personally would say, to answer that question and round it off there, seek help first before you bring children into the world. Become wholesome. Be a happy person. Happy genuinely from inside, not the smile on the outside that doesn't touch the inside, but the smile on the inside that radiates on the outside. And then you can start to bring children into the world.
Okay, this is a masterclass. Thank you so much, Zadio. This is a masterclass. Okay, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. I mean, we're even learning beyond your story, and I'm totally here for it. Okay, so then my next question is on your fears. What fears did you have, if you had any, before getting into marriage? And did you do any particular thing to work on it, or how did you reflect on marriage, and what did you learn that you may want to share with us? But sometimes people have fears. I don't know if it was same for you.
I think the only fear I might have had was the outlaws, which is what I call them, which are my husband's in-laws from his late wife. I wasn't sure the kind of people they were. And so also because they had stayed with him for 6 years after his wife had died. And so they, they already had a rhythm going on. Because of the kind of person that I also was, a people pleaser, I was happy to allow them even stay on, Not only that, not only because I was a people pleaser, but because also I'd lost my older sister. And what had happened between us and her husband's side and my nephew was a bit it was a bit tough, let me use that word. And so I didn't want to do the same. I didn't want to replicate that pain to these children. So for me, I didn't want to cut off the people that had given these children support for the last 6 years. Well, I know better now. But that's the kind of heart that I have. I'm open to a lot of stuff. So if I had fears at all, it would have been around that, because like I said, myself and his dad were cool, and his siblings were really cool. So I didn't have any, and his mom was late. He had a stepmother who really is also very sweet. So I didn't have any challenges or fears around that. I'd also psyched myself to believe that the love that I have for him, I would translate it to the children. And so that didn't really, so I asked him about them, and he said, oh, they're really nice people, they're really good people, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, a lot of times we don't have great things to say about our in-laws. So when he mentioned that they were good and nice people, I thought, okay, I mean, that's a fair judgment. And I plunged in.
Okay. So I would like to, for a person choosing to get married to a single father, specifically in this, a person whose wife has passed on, what are some of the things you may want to share with that young woman, that single woman, that, well, you wish you were probably told? And this question, I would also like to impute this question along with that. There was this debate one time, there still is a debate of when a wife comes into a wife after a wife, the previous one passed on. What are some do's and don'ts in the house? Should the picture of the wife who passed on still be in the living room, for instance? Sometimes when people are confused about this, I'm glad that we're professionals here, because most times they just banter. Nobody really solves the problem. They just banter around it. So I would just like you to please speak with that. I believe your sharings would help any future wife with that fear and help them know what to do differently.
Okay. The first thing that I'll say is, I'm hoping that you seek therapy before you as a family, before you even come together as a family. You cannot do it on your own. You can't. It's not a journey that anybody can prepare you for, because of all the emotions that come with it. In my case, she was late, and so I found myself competing with a ghost that I never met, right? And that can naturally happen because I was wondering if I had a space in his heart. Because they were in love when she died. It wasn't like they fought and they went their separate ways and now they don't want to see each other anymore. So it was different. He loved her and she died with that, so could I ever have a space in his heart? Would he? I used to feel like at some point, until I realized that maybe also he doesn't want to put in emotions into this, because what if one day you two go out and you don't come back? So they're dealing with a lot, If they don't, if the man also hasn't gone through therapy, you are taking on damaged goods, and you're going to suffer for it, and not just suffer, you're going to go through a lot of pain. I now know that suffering is a choice. Pain might be inevitable, but suffering is a choice. But until I had gone through my own phase, I probably, if I didn't go through all the therapy that I went through, I most likely will not be with the man that I'm still with right now. I'd have walked away a while ago. So I think therapy is the first and maybe the best thing that you can ever do. Another thing I think that should happen is this. In my case, my husband should have had something I coined or I created, a severing party, where he sits down with his in-laws and he really, really thanks them for what they've done for him. If he has to buy gifts, buy gifts. Have like a separation party, right? And share what they've done to you. Tell them how they have helped you. However, you then share that this is going to be the new role that your family is going to play, and it's going to be without them for a bit, okay? And maybe you want, because now this is me hoping that you have been through some kind of therapy and you have come up with a plan for this marriage, okay? For this family, this new family you are about to create. And I feel like carrying them along, they may not like it, but that's not your business. You've told them anyways. And so carrying them along to say, thank you for what you've done. You know, for the last 6 years, in my case, you were there for me. You did this for me. The children could depend on you. I could depend on you, you know, and let them, and don't just say thank you, but be specific about why you are thanking them. And of course, if the wife is still alive, she should be part of this party as well. And hopefully part of therapy, because she's going to be part of their lives forever, right? There has to be a consensus. The children also are involved. Children have feelings too. So they also need to be part of how this new family is going to evolve. And so in this severing party or separation party, they'll be told exactly for the next 6 months, for the next 1 year, we're going to not need you people. We're going to be doing X, Y, Z. Now, of course, when there's, we will call you and let you know when these children can come over. We would also like to know when, or tell you when it's okay for you to come over, so that they don't believe that they still have access to you or your house the way they used to. Don't forget, in my case, they had 6 years of living with him. So they had absolute access to him. And then all of a sudden, one yellow pawpaw is showing up, and now they cannot come to that house again. So you will be seen as, and I call myself yellow pawpaw and I'm laughing, but I'm just saying how it's going to look. And it's going to be seen as you are the one that has come to scatter their already, you know, flowing arrangement. So therapy. That's number 1, 2, and 3. Through that, you get some coaching as well that would help you, guide you. Of course, there's so many family life practitioners that can help you. I work with blended homes and stepmothers, so you can come to me as well. And we can guide you through the things that you need to do. Now, 90% of it comes back to you and how you need to be. If you are not wholesome, you're not going to be able to give from a place of wholesomeness. And a lot of us come into those marriages. My husband thought he'd been married before, so he can do marriage again, not realizing that he's never been married to me. I thought I am an adult. I'm 34. Come on, how bad can it be, right? I know what love is. Not realizing that I'd never been married before. Not only that, I'd never been married to a man who had children that I now had to take on board and put on the pressure on myself to tell myself that I needed to love them like they are my own. The question is, are they mine? The answer is no. So we come in with so much pressure. Oh, you have to be like the mother. You have to act like, what would the mother do? How would people be looking at me? That constant chatter. Did I kneel enough? Did I smile enough? Did I shout enough? Did I jump enough? Did I hop enough? It's that constant chatter. Now, if you yourself are not ready for that constant chatter, you're going to criticize yourself the entire time. And as you're criticizing yourself, you're going to project it on other people and think that they're the ones criticizing you, but you're the one criticizing yourself, because the thoughts are happening only in your head, not in theirs. But what would then happen is that you start to create that thought. It becomes life. And they now start to do those things to you. And you say, I said it. Of course, it's called self-prophecy for a reason, right? Because you created it. So First 10 things: therapy, 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 coaching. First 10 things. Then the next thing would be having that severing party with them so that they cannot even say, the worst thing they'll say is, can you imagine? But somebody will point at them, but he told you, or but she told you. So you can't say, can you imagine? I can't even go to their house. Somebody will tap you and say, but they already told us that we cannot come to their house for 1 year. Let's allow them from this new nation that they're forming. It's a blended home. It's not a normal situation. It's blended. So they have to spend time within themselves to know themselves. They have to spend time within themselves to just align in some way and keep growing, you know. And then from then on, other people can come in because, you know, for me, people had all kinds of advice. And most advice is from people's pain. They're not telling you from a place of it may seem like it's a great thing that they're telling you, but they're advising you from their pain. So it can never be good advice. Never. And it may be your mother giving you. It's like my mother has never been a stepmother. So what advice can she give me? Right? She may have ideas, but she's never been a stepmother. She's had, yes, her marriage. She may say a few things, but she doesn't know what it is like walking in my shoes. She doesn't know what it's like. So I want to then look for somebody who has been successful at it, aside of course therapy and coaching. Look for somebody who has been successful at walking this path and learning from them. Now, I don't want to be like them, but I want to pick some of the things that they've done and apply it in my own situation and make it my own. Right? So I don't want to be like anybody. I want to take some of the advice and make it my own. And because our homes are different, the people that we're married to are different. And then we want to keep asking ourselves, maybe every 3 or 6 months, do a check. Who are you today? Because we will change. I'm not the person that my husband married. I'm not the same person that I was just even 3 months ago, guys. Just 3 months ago, I'm a different person today. So imagine my husband believing that I know her, but he actually doesn't. And so we're strangers living together, thinking that we know each other, but we don't. And a lot of marriages are like that right now.
Thank you so much, Ms. Adeola. That was really insightful and very helpful in helping any single lady that sees herself in this situation. I think you've been able to demystify a lot of the fears that so many people they find themselves cracking under, not knowing what to do next, but you have just helped us to
Sorry, you mentioned something about pictures. You know,
oh yes,
I will use my own scenario. When I got into my husband's house, he had pictures of his wife still in the house, and I told him, not on my life. I mean, if you weren't ready to move on, why did you get married to me? But this is what I did. I said to him that the pictures can be in the children's rooms because she's their mother. I don't want to take her place. So they can have their mother's pictures all over their bedrooms. That's fine. I just don't want to have a picture of your late wife on the table in the room whilst both of us are making love. I'm sorry. I've not grown to that point yet. Maybe I may never, but I'm not going to be looking at that picture. But like I said, I said it was okay for the children to have the pictures. Keep all your pictures, keep all your memories. They need it. In my case, my stepkids don't remember their mother because they were quite young when she passed. One was 8 months and one was 3 years old or something. They don't remember. Okay. But I want them to always have the memory of their mother and remember what she looks like, and I tell them to ask people to tell you about your mom, so that at least you have something about your mom in your heart. I don't want to take her place. I want to find my own place. And that's the last thing I'll say. Create your lane. Any woman who is going to marry a man who has children, don't go in there and try and start competing or comparing with anybody. Create your own lane. The fact that you're there means that you are needed there. So tell yourself that you are just as important in this family as much as everybody, because one of the things that stepmoms complain about is that, oh, I feel alone. that loneliness is in your heart, it's not in the family. So if you change it, then it will change for you.
Thank you. That's a great note to end that particular question. And you've shared with us that people, and for those watching, you can come to Mrs. Adeola for anything that has to do with blended family. But I would just like you to speak briefly. Are there special tips on how to work with an already existing children in the family that you may want to share with us before we start to wrap up? Because that's different.
Once again, you can't give what you do not have. And that's the truth. I can give you all kinds of tips, but words don't teach, okay? Experiences will. So I can give you 1 million tips. It won't make any difference. There are certain tips that people gave me. I couldn't hear it. I wasn't ready to hear it. So I couldn't hear it. And that's the truth. You know, that statement, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. The end of that statement is when the student becomes very ready, the teacher disappears. Okay? So what happens is that when you are ready to hear something, when you're ready for something, then the means to it will show up. And so I will go and seek help. Get help. Because your situation will be different, right? So it's not a one size fit all. And even if I tell you all the things that I did, maybe 9 of them may not work for you because your situation is different. Okay, so I think the most important thing, once again, is to seek help. Look for somebody that can help guide you through the situation and help you become a better person. And it's you know, once you can lead yourself right, you can lead other people right. Okay, so it's not about the children, it's not about your husband, it's about you. When you get yourself together, then you can get your family together. I'm of the opinion that you don't need 2 people to work on something. You just need you. When I was going to go and look for help, I said to my husband, we need help, let's go and get it. He said there's nothing wrong with him, and so he's not looking for help. I said there's something wrong with me, and so I'm going to look for help. And a lot of women will say, oh, my husband said no. The fact that he said no didn't stop me at all. And thankfully, I had the wherewithal to be able to do some of the things that I did. Some of the resources that I needed showed up when I needed it. I didn't have all the resources in the beginning, but it didn't matter to me because, like I said, I burnt all the bridges. My change and my growth was non-negotiable. It wasn't optional. So it wasn't a conversation I was going to have with anybody. I was ready to bulldoze everybody and anybody out of my way to get to my expected end, right? So seek help. You don't have to go as a family. I mean, most of the time, they'll say, so where's your husband? I'll say, he's not here. I'm the one that's here. Walk with me. Don't worry. Just walk with me. If you walk with me, it will find a way, you know. And what has happened is that I'm a completely different person, you know, and I didn't need him to change for me to change.
That's a powerful statement. That's a powerful one. You didn't need him to change for you to change. Yeah, powerful statement. Okay. What would you do differently? Is there anything you would have done differently? You've shared with us a lot of insights. I mean, a lot. It has even covered a lot of the questions I would have asked you. But looking back, if you could go back to your single days, is there anything you could have done differently that perhaps would have birthed a different result in your marriage generally, whether it's the early years or just generally?
If I could do anything different, it would be to have changed my thoughts then, because now I know that my thoughts create my results. So I would have guarded and guided my thoughts to knowing exactly what I wanted. Then I didn't know what I wanted. Anything would have been okay. And that's where also I find a lot of people, they don't know what they want. You know, if you say, what do you want to say? I want to be rich. What does that mean? It means nothing. Imagine it's like going to a restaurant and they give you a menu and you look at it and say, give me anything. What are they going to give you? And so if you don't, exactly, there's nothing called anything on the menu. So you're going to have to be specific, right? And a lot of people don't know what they want. And that's why 97% of the people will die mediocre, because they don't know what they want. It's unfortunate. I listened to Bob Proctor. He said 1% of the people think, 2% think they think, and 97 people would rather die than think. Because mental chatter does not mean thinking. If you know how important your thoughts are and how creative they are, you will guard them. Everyone. You may not be able to guard your thoughts the way they come, but you can guard how you think them. And I had to learn that. I did a mental diet, 21 days mental diet on my thoughts. And once I have a negative thought, I would ask myself certain questions. And once the answer is no, so now I've mastered it. 7 seconds, I know how to throw it out of my, immediately it's gone. Or control or delete, move on to the next. But I had to train myself. Like I said, I'm a warrior. I'm a soldier. So for the things that I say I'm going to do, forget it. You can go to sleep. Even me, I don't even know how to change it after I said that I'll do it. And that's the kind of person, I promise you, if I tell you I won't do something, even me trying to change it, I can, because that's how strong my mind is. And so I'm careful of never saying never, because when I say never, you can take it to the bank. However, your mental chatter doesn't qualify thinking. Okay? Oh, Mommy Mo, you put it up here. It's the truth.
Building, yes.
So thinking requires is a skill to think. Is a skill, and you need to learn it. We're getting into a new year, right? People don't think. People just dance around. And so if there's anything I know now that I wish I knew then, it would be to think right.
Okay. If you could help us, when you say to think right, you mean just generally about your life and how you saw yourself, just so that we get perspective, or you made generally
about everything in general, you know. If I maybe if I knew what I wanted, I mean, I've settled for the person that I settled down with. Not to say that I regret it once again. I won't be who I am today if I didn't marry him, but he probably wouldn't have been the person that I would have thought of. I would have chosen differently. I would have created my life in a different way, is what I'm saying. You know, and because I didn't know what I wanted, I couldn't ask for it. If you don't know what you want, even if it's slapping in your face, you can't know it, right? You can't, because you don't know what you want. And so if I could tell my younger self anything right now, what I would say to her is know what you want with specificity.
All right, and our final question before we move to your rapid fire question will be, what are lessons generally you have learned in marriage that has shaped you, and even just generally how you do life? You may want to share between 3 to 5 lessons, but that you have learned in marriage since in the past 8 years and counting.
Okay, the first one is, my happiness is nobody's responsibility. It's not my husband's responsibility to make me happy. It's my responsibility. The second thing that I've learned is that I can give myself everything that I require. And so if I get it from other people, great. Otherwise, I can give myself everything that I require for my existence. The third thing that I've learned is to create my village. No human being, even if they die trying, can meet all your needs. They can die trying, they still will not meet your needs, because our needs change. And so I've learned that I create my village for the to still get all the things that I require that my spouse cannot give to me. Either he's unwilling or he's unable, because it could be any of the two, right? But those things, I still desire to have them. And so I create my community around me to give me those things, so that I don't feel the void of it. I have what I need to exist. That's the third thing. The fourth thing is, if I change me, everything around me will change. And so rather than pointing fingers, I don't give my power to anybody. There's nothing I do that I will blame on anybody else. Nothing that happens in my life will I blame it on anybody else. The first question I ask myself is, how did I contribute to making this happen? Because I'm the creator of my reality. And how did I teach this person to treat me? Because I cannot teach them. But I need to know it first. Okay? That's the fourth thing that I learned. And maybe the last thing would be this. Look for the good in everything, and you will find it. We tend to focus only on the negative things, of what people do. And not only do we focus on the negative, we put it together and say he's a useless man. Maybe he's a useless father, but he's a fantastic husband. Can you greet him? Can you appreciate him being a great father? Maybe he's a terrible lover, but he's a good companion. Can you appreciate him for being, whilst you're hoping that he changes in one, or maybe even accepting that that's who he is? Because at the end of the day, once again, it's because we choose not to accept our partners. We don't like our partners. People always just we trade. If you give me this, I give you that. That's what we do. We don't love, because love is unconditional. But what we do is trade by barter. You give me this, I give you that. You give me security, I give you children, or I give you sex or something. We trade. So we need to start to love unconditionally from that place of, what am I coming to give? Because life is forgiving, not forgetting, right? And so you want to go and give. What am I bringing to this marriage? What am I depositing here? Because at least every time I come here, I will find what I have deposited. I will find the love that I have deposited. So what I want to do is give love. I want to appreciate. If you hear me appreciate my husband, even if it's one pencil he bought for me, you think he has just bought me a sand castle of 20 pencils. But what gets celebrated gets repeated. And I want to say to him that I see you. You didn't have to do it, but you went out your way to buy me this pencil. So thank you. Thank you for thinking about me enough to buy. And I don't just say thank you. I give reasons why I'm saying thank you, because they need to know why I'm thanking them. So we need to now start to, and the reason why it's easy for me to do it for him is because I do it to myself. I thank myself for the minutest things. This morning I finished my workout and I patted myself on the back. I said, Adeola, well done. You've done a fantastic job. Well done for getting up and pushing yourself to do this. Look at how sexy you are. I speak to myself. I'm able to praise myself. So I don't need anybody to praise me. So anything that comes from someone else falls into my saucer, not even my cup, because I'm overflowing with myself, to myself, by myself. I'm sorry. Apologies on that. So those are the 5 things that I'll say that you should hold on to. I know that I've said different things in between, but we can speak for 4 hours and we'll still be here talking. I'm a talker, as you can see.
Oh, wow, Mrs. Adeola. Me, wow. It's just and Mrs. Adeola, people talk, but not many people make sense. So when you are making sense with the talk, we're just like,
I'm a wise talker.
Yes. Like, we can just sit here and listen in. And I didn't mean to ask you this question, but I think it's important before I move to your rapid fire question based on the last answer you gave. You shared, they say, well, nowadays it seems that we trade love. We don't love, like we don't give love. And you then now went ahead to even share the examples on how you give, and because your cup is overflowing. Many times in this generation, there are a lot of quotes now that are out there out of bitterness. Many people claim that they've given, and we hear you've said all this, but who is going to give to me too? Or what if I'm hurting? Or what if I'm not also receiving? Or what if I give to the point where it looks like I'm good all by myself, nobody gives to me? So I would like to what would you say to that person, or how can that be balanced?
Okay,
without it?
This is my answer. This is my answer. Most times we give because of what we want to receive, and so you are it's conditional, and that's because of the void that you have in you. Okay, so you're not giving because you love them. You are giving because of what you would get, that thank you that you will get back in return. So that's why. Now, the second thing that is going to hurt you right now that I'm going to say is they didn't ask you, you offered. That's true. Most times, people pleasers, they don't need to ask you. You come up to help. Nobody asks you. And so when you give somebody that didn't ask you, you haven't done anything to that for that person. And I used to be like that. I used to give for what I would get in return. I didn't give from a place of love. I used to trade. And so I remember one day, okay, so let me just tell you the lesson I learned from it. Don't if you want to help you, because I'm a recovering giver. When people are complaining to you, they're not asking you. You're the one that offers. Don't offer until they ask. If you really want to be a savior, let me teach you this. If you really want to be a savior, don't offer. Wait for people to ask. By the time they're asking you, most times, if it's your spouse, especially for men, you are the last resort. They would have asked other people. And so you're the last person. And then maybe you are able to do it. Then you become the savior. Because at that time, they would have asked so many other people. And now they asked you and you can help them. And then you get that thank you. But that thank you has come from them, not from you. As the recovering giver to others. I can say a lot around this and be here for hours. But to be honest, most times people give, they don't ask you. They're only complaining. But you offer, and then you now feel sad and upset that this ingrate, after all I've done for you, nobody asked you. You are the one that offered, so stop offering, and then you stop being in pain.
Okay, that's a great way to end the conversation in that regarding that. Thank you so much. And I mean, it's just an unforgettable answer that you gave. Just wait for people to ask first rather than offer.
And it's also okay to say no. It's also okay to say no. You're not a bad person to say no. No is an answer. Use it wisely.
Is an answer.
I say no with a smile on my face, and people ask me why. I say I have no reason. When I say yes, you don't ask me for a reason. So why do I need to give you a reason when I say no? No, I'm not doing it. With a beautiful smile on my face, so if you can't even fault me after I've smiled at you, you get it.
Wow. Okay. I mean, this has been a session. I'm still enjoying it because we are still in it. Okay.
And I have to run.
Yes, your rapid fire question.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to take up to 2 minutes. Your rapid fire question will not take up to 2 minutes. You're not even supposed to take up to 30 seconds to answer it.
Okay.
So yes, as quick as possible. Number one, what's your favorite color?
Yellow.
What's your favorite food?
I don't have any. I eat whatever I see.
What are you allergic to?
Nothing. Oh, what am I allergic to? Lies.
Okay. What's your best movie?
I don't think I have any.
Best book?
Ask, and it is given.
Okay. Were you given birth to in Nigeria?
Yes. But I'm
okay. If you were not born,
citizen.
Okay, if you were not born in Nigeria, what country would you have liked to be born into?
Well, I'm a British citizen, and I'm happy there.
Okay. All right, gold or silver?
Gold.
Black or white?
Both.
No, you cannot. You have to speak only one.
I'm sorry. I'm this and that. I'm not this or that, honey. I don't own a box, so I don't think in one. Don't box me, mama.
Okay, yellow or pink? Yellow or pink?
Yellow.
What is one favorite thing about your husband?
He has a big heart. He's a phenomenal person.
Okay. Your favorite attire to wear?
Shorts and a t-shirt.
What is your favorite thing to do?
Learn.
What do you like to do for fun?
Learn. Study. Solitude.
Small chops. Okay. Small chops or jollof rice?
Jollof rice.
Fruits or vegetables?
Both.
I think you're going to say both. Would you rather take the train or would you rather take a ship?
Ship.
Bus or an airplane?
Airplane. Yeah, come on.
Writing or speaking?
Speaking.
Rain or sunshine?
Both.
I was waiting for the both. Okay, do you prefer group trainings or one-on-one therapy? How do you prefer to see clients?
Both.
Audio or visual?
Both.
You've used all your strength of both. Okay, we're running up now. A day at the beach or a day in one of your favorite restaurants?
Beach.
All right. If you had it, and we all have superpowers, but if you could change one thing in 24 hours in Nigeria, what would that one thing be that you would like to see changed?
I want to see happy people, wholesome people.
Okay, wholesome. Okay, and finally, what would you like to be remembered for?
For raising 10 billion wholesome people all over the world.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mrs. Adeola. This has been a session, and we will never forget your time, the investment of your time and intention with us. Thank you so much for being here with us today and investing and pouring into us. We're so grateful.
You're very welcome. I'm walking downstairs because I can hear my daughter at the door.
Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening, and thank you for inviting me. Much love. Mwah.